The encyclopedia is, and always has been, a fraud. In the 50 years that you have worked on this fraudulent project, your retreat has been cut off, and you now have no choice but to proceed on the infinitely more important project that was and is our real plan. Terminus and its companion Foundation at the other end of the galaxy are to be the seeds and founders of the Second Galactic Empire.
Isaac Asimov's Foundation Trilogy ranks as one of the most significant science fiction works of all time. It received the Hugo Award for Best All-Time Series, the first and only work to be so honored, shocking Asimov himself, who expected it to go to The Lord of the Rings. The story of Foundation was first told through a series of short stories that were eventually collected into the series, 4 in the first book, 2 in the second, and 2 in the third. When they were collected, a 5th story was created for the original book as a kind of prologue to the work. Asimov came up with the idea for the Foundation from reading the book The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. While on his way to a meeting with Joseph M. Campbell about some possible story ideas, he quickly knit together this idea, the decline and fall of a galactic empire, but with a twist. Knowing that after the fall came the Dark Ages, let's not debate the accuracy of that label. This was the late 40s when Asimov was putting all of this together, okay? The Dark Ages was pretty much accepted by then, let's not quibble. Anyway, in the same way that there would be a Dark Ages afterwards as well here, spanning 30,000 years, a period of galactic barbarism. And this was known because of a brand new mathematics, psychohistory, which combines the two least exciting things in the world, psychology and statistical analysis. Psychohistory would allow someone to predict the future of historical events, but not with any kind of exactitude. It wouldn't, for instance, have said that Kennedy would be killed on that day and at that time. Not even that he would be killed at all, or even that there would be a President Kennedy. But it would identify that there would be a Cuban Missile Crisis, with a probability of such and so that it would happen, and a likely outcome one way or another based upon it doesn't matter because it's not real. But point is, this psychohistory could be used to see the big things that would happen due to the forces that were in play, one being the eventual fall of the empire, an unstoppable decline at that point. But if we do know how history shapes itself due to psychohistory, then we can manipulate things to perhaps deal with the barbarism that would follow, cut it down from 30,000 years to a mere 1,000 years. But it would require very careful calculation and planning. The fruit of that was a group called the Foundation, created to write a vast encyclopedia on the edge of the galaxy on the planet Terminus, and from this settlement, the solution would come. Asimov drew various bits of inspiration from the fall of the Roman Empire and the period that followed to use in Foundation. For instance, the religion of the Galactic Spirit and its tie to the government of Terminus is a likely parallel to the rise of Christianity and its incorporation into Rome. The rise of the merchant princes here is comparable to the rise of merchant princes in the Middle Ages. The last gasp of the strong galactic empire, in the form of Emperor Cleon II and his strong general Belriose, is directly based upon Emperor Justinian and General Belisarius, and their successful, if somewhat rocky, relationship and attempt to restore the Roman Empire to glory. The sack of Trantor and the sack of Rome are obvious cases of duplication, and the new Trantor likely based upon the eastern capital of Constantinople, and the Mule, probably based on other historical conquerors of this time, Charlemagne, Attila the Hun, and Timur, the general who slaughtered 5% of the entire human race of that time. Asimov completed the tale, or so he felt, with Now You Don't, the final story of the Second Foundation. But after years of badgering by fans, he realized he did kind of leave things incomplete. So 30 years later, he wrote 2 further books set afterwards, Foundation's Edge and Foundation and Earth. followed by 2 more prequel books because, according to his wife, Asimov had no idea how to continue the story forward again. So the story of the 1,000-year period to bring about the new empire is still only half told. Further tales of Foundation have likewise been prequels or have been fitted around the existing stories. Foundation is part space opera, part political thriller. Action is downplayed and solving conundrums is more at the forefront. Asimov wrote the original trilogy in his early 20s and over 60 years ago, so it's no surprise that many consider it weak compared to modern SF works, or even compared to some of Asimov's other materials, such as the robot stories. Asimov himself is supposed to have said that he found it disappointing that there was so much of people standing around talking. But while the story has its flaws, it nevertheless does stand up as a significant work of science fiction. And I recommend in particular the unabridged audio version that is available as read by Scott Brick. He really breathes life into the work. The trilogy was adapted into a series of audio plays by the BBC 40 years ago, including not 1 but 2 actors who played the Master on Doctor Who, along with the great Julian Glover from things like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Doctor Who, and Game of Thrones. There's also interest in bringing the trilogy to the big screen, but as I've said before, big science fiction films often lead to summer blockbuster-style action romps because of the expense involved. So I suppose there's no surprise that a Hollywood that gave us Bicentennial Man turned into a Robin Williams comedy, or I, Robot turned into a Will Smith action movie, that Foundation is under development by none other than Roland Emmerich. That so sounds like a joke, I kept checking the sources to make sure that this wasn't just another April Fool's gag. I don't normally do books, and this week might show why that's a good idea, but starting tomorrow, I will be covering all 3 books of the Foundation Trilogy. In brief, but with my overall thoughts on the ideas that they bring up. We'll see how things go. So tomorrow, it's Foundation.